The woman on Maple Street. It was a quiet Saturday morning. In a sleepy town nestled between hills and rivers, birds were singing. The sun peeked through soft clouds, and most people were still sipping coffee or flipping pancakes. But not Keanu Reeves. He was wearing worn jeans and a simple gray t-shirt, hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. And he stood outside a small white house on Maple Street. He wasn't there for a movie. He wasn't being filmed. He was just helping. Keanu had always kept his heart grounded, even when fame tried to lift him far from the earth. For years, he'd done quiet things, small things, acts of kindness no one ever heard about. And that morning, he showed up for someone no one else had shown up for in years. Her name was Claire, 72, widow, living alone in the same house for decades. Her hands trembled slightly from age, and her back was never quite straight anymore. The neighborhood kids called her Miss Claire, though most hadn't seen her up close. She didn't speak much, and when she did, her voice was soft, almost like a breeze. She had put out a handwritten note on the community board at the grocery store the week before. It read, "Need help moving furniture for carpet replacement. Will make cookies. Claire, Maple Street." Keanu had seen the note while picking up canned soup. Something about it stayed with him. Maybe it was the way cookies was underlined. Maybe it was the loneliness between the lines. So he showed up, no cameras, no announcement. Just a knock on Claire's door. When she opened it, she looked up at him with cautious eyes. "You're taller than I expected," she said quietly. Keanu smiled. "You're smaller than your handwriting." And just like that, she let him in. Inside, the house was filled with old memories. Faded pictures on the wall, books stacked in odd corners, a grandfather clock that hadn't ticked in years. Keanu could smell lemon polish and fresh baked peanut butter cookies. The living room had a heavy green couch, 2 armchairs, and an ancient piano. Claire looked around, almost embarrassed. "I'm sorry it's so cluttered," she said. Keanu shook his head. "It feels warm, like it remembers things." Claire stared at him for a long second. "You talk like someone who's lost things." Keanu didn't answer. He just nodded. They began moving the couch first. It groaned under its own weight, but Keanu lifted one end with ease. Claire watched in amazement. "You're stronger than any man I ever loved," she said without thinking. Keanu paused, looked at her. She flushed. "I mean, not just the lifting. I meant, you showed up." Her eyes glistened. She blinked quickly, trying to wave the feeling away with her small hand. "Sorry, I talk too much when I'm nervous." Keanu gently set the couch down. "You don't need to be nervous." They continued working, moving furniture piece by piece. Claire told stories while they worked, about her husband, who had passed away 20 years ago, about the songs he used to play on the piano, about the baby grand that hadn't been touched since his funeral. "I tried once," she said, dusting the old keys, "but my hands shook too much." Keanu looked at the piano. "Do you mind if I try?" Claire nodded. He sat down, hesitated, then played a slow, soft tune, something gentle, something full of memory. Claire closed her eyes. She didn't recognize the song, but she recognized the feeling. When he stopped, she whispered, "That was beautiful." Keanu stood. "Thank you for letting me play." They took a short break and sat on the porch. Claire handed him a cookie. It was warm, soft, and sweet, just like everything she was trying not to show about herself. "You know," she said, "I didn't think anyone would come. I put that note up because I didn't know what else to do. I don't have children. My neighbors are busy. I thought maybe someone would call, maybe someone would offer names. But I never expected you." Keanu looked out at the trees. "Sometimes we're pulled to people without knowing why." Claire sipped her tea. "Do you think it's fate?" He nodded slowly. "Or maybe kindness is a map we follow without seeing it." She smiled at that. But deep inside, Claire was holding something back. Something heavy. Something she hadn't spoken aloud in years. Keanu could feel it, like a closed door behind her eyes. As the sun began to lower, painting the porch in gold, Claire finally said, "There's one room I didn't ask you to help with." Keanu turned to her. "It's my husband's study," she said. "I haven't opened it in 10 years. "Why not?" She looked down. "Because I'm afraid if I open that door, he'll really be gone." Keanu was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Would you like me to stand with you while you open it?" Claire didn't speak, but she nodded, and together, they stood up. She walked slowly, step by step, down the hallway. The door at the end was old, dark wood, dust gathered on its edges. She reached for the knob, then paused. Her hand shook. Keanu gently placed his hand over hers. They turned it together. The door creaked open. The smell of old paper, cologne, and time poured out. Everything inside was untouched. Books on the desk, a coat still hanging on the back of the chair, a photo of Claire and her husband smiling under a tree. She stepped inside. Her knees buckled slightly. Keanu caught her arm. She whispered, "He used to write letters to me, even when we lived in the same house." She walked to the desk drawer and slowly pulled it open. Dozens of letters, neatly stacked. She picked up the top one. "I never read this one," she said. "He gave it to me the day before he died. I was too scared." Keanu stepped back, giving her space. She opened the letter with trembling fingers. Her lips moved silently as she read. Then tears began to fall, quiet and heavy. She held the paper to her chest. "He forgave me," she whispered, "for something I never told anyone." Keanu stepped closer. She looked at him through her tears and said, "You were meant to be here." And for the first time in years, she smiled without holding back. What Claire never told anyone. The sun had begun to set, casting long orange shadows through the windows of Claire's old house. The open door to her husband's study let out the scent of dusty books, wood polish, and time, heavy time, the kind that fills a room when memories have been locked away for too long. Keanu stood quietly in the hallway, giving Claire space. She sat in the old desk chair, the letter still in her hands. Her fingers gently traced her late husband's handwriting, as if touching the paper could bring him back just for a moment. Her shoulders shook once, then again, but she didn't sob out loud. Her grief came in quiet waves, soaked into her skin. Over the years, after some time, Claire spoke. He knew about my mistake, even though I never told him." Keanu stepped softly into the room, his voice low. "What mistake?" Claire didn't look at him right away. She gazed at a small framed photo on the desk. In it, she was younger, laughing with her husband at a picnic. Her hands clutched a sandwich, and his head was thrown back mid-laugh. It looked like joy captured in a jar. "I almost left him once," she said. "Not for someone else, just because I was scared. I thought he deserved more. I didn't think I was enough." Keanu sat on the floor beside her chair, cross-legged, listening. "He was kind," she continued. "Too kind, really. And sometimes when someone is too good to you, you start wondering what's wrong with you, why you're not happy, why you feel restless. It took me years to understand. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing a person can give." She looked down at Keanu. "I was cruel to him once. Told him I wanted space. Told him he didn't understand me. But instead of yelling or leaving, he wrote me a letter and placed it under my pillow. I found it the next morning." "What did it say?" Keanu asked gently. She unfolded it, voice trembling as she read. It aloud, "My Claire, I know you're hurting, and I may not be what you need right now. But I want you to know, I will always love you, even if from a distance. I'll wait, even if you walk away, and if someday you come back, you'll find me in the garden, still planting seeds, still believing in us." By the time she finished reading, tears streamed down her cheeks again. "And I did come back," she whispered. "But he never brought it up. He just held my hand, like nothing ever happened." Keanu's chest felt tight, not from sadness, from recognition. He had loved and lost. He had seen silence where there should have been forgiveness, and pain where there should have been peace. But Claire's story wasn't about loss. It was about something rare, love that stayed. Even when shaken, he reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. "You did come back," he said. "That's what matters." They sat there in the quiet room as the sunlight faded completely. The house was still, but not cold. Something had shifted, like a breath that had been held for 10 years was finally released. After a while, Claire stood up. "Would you help me move one last thing?" Keanu nodded. She led him to the hallway closet. Inside, wrapped in an old blanket, was a small wooden box. She opened it carefully and pulled out an album. Our life in pictures, she said. But I haven't looked through it in over a decade. They sat on the couch together, flipping through the pages. Photos of birthdays, vacations, random mornings. One showed Claire laughing in her robe, flower on her nose. Another had her husband in the garden, hands dirty, holding a tiny tomato like it was treasure. Keanu smiled at each one. And Claire? She laughed, she cried, sometimes both at the same time. When they finished the album, Claire leaned back and looked at Keanu with eyes full of quiet gratitude. You were sent to me, she said. I don't know how or why, but you were. Keanu shrugged gently. Maybe. We were sent to each other. Outside, the stars began to appear. And just when they thought the day had ended, the doorbell rang. Claire looked confused. I wasn't expecting anyone. She walked to the door slowly and opened it. On the porch stood a teenage girl, skinny, dirty, shivering. I'm sorry, the girl said. I saw the lights. Can I please borrow your phone? I ran away. Claire turned back to Keanu, shocked. Keanu stepped forward. What's your name? He asked the girl gently. Mara, she whispered. He saw the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion, the same kind of lost that he had once carried in his own soul. Claire opened the door wider. Come in, child. You look like you need more than a phone. Mara stepped inside, slowly, looking around. And as the door closed behind her, a new story was about to begin. The girl with no shows. Mara stood just inside the door, her arms wrapped around herself. Her jeans were torn at the knees, and she wore no shoes. Her feet were red from the cold bricks of the porch. She couldn't have been older than 16. Her eyes were wide, tired, and filled with something that made both Claire and Keanu feel a deep ache, the kind that comes from being invisible too long. Claire stepped forward first. Come, sit down, she said softly. You're safe here. Mara didn't move right away. She looked around the house, her body still stiff like a cornered animal. She glanced at Keanu, then at the warm couch, then back at Claire. I didn't mean to scare you, she said quietly. I just saw the lights. I've been walking since yesterday. Keanu stepped forward slowly and offered her a glass of water. You didn't scare us, he said gently. You were brave to knock. Mara finally moved to the couch and sat down carefully, like she didn't trust it to hold her. Claire wrapped a small blanket around her shoulders and placed a cookie in her hand without saying a word. For a few minutes, no one asked anything. They just let the silence settle. Finally, Keanu sat across from her and asked, What happened? Mara's lips trembled. I was living with my aunt after my mom passed. It was okay for a while, until her boyfriend moved in. Claire gently placed her hand over Mara's. He started yelling, breaking things. One night, he pushed me, said I was in the way. My aunt didn't believe me, said I was making drama. So I left. She looked down at her dirty feet. I thought maybe I'd get to the city, maybe find a shelter. But it's far. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Claire was already in the kitchen, heating soup. Keanu leaned in. You're not alone anymore. Mara looked up at him. Why are you here? He smiled slightly. I was just moving some furniture. Mara stared for a moment, confused. You're him. You're Keanu Reeves. He nodded slowly. But right now, I'm just a guy helping Claire. Mara whispered. My mom loved you. She always said you were the only movie star who seemed real. Claire returned with a steaming bowl of soup and a pair of soft-wool socks. She knelt beside Mara, helping her slip the socks on gently. We're going to make sure you're warm, Claire said, and full and safe. Mara looked like she might cry, but she didn't. She just nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Later that evening, after Mara had eaten and curled up on the living room recliner, wrapped in an old quilt, Claire and Keanu sat quietly on the porch. The stars were out. Keanu leaned on the porch railing. I wasn't expecting this today, Claire sipped her tea. You think you came here for furniture, but maybe you came for something more. Keanu nodded. Maybe she did too. They sat in silence for a while. Then Claire said, You've carried something heavy, haven't you? Keanu looked at her. Many things. How do you carry it without turning bitter? He thought for a moment. I don't always succeed. Some days, It weighs me down. But then I remember someone out there has it harder. And if I can carry a little bit of someone else's pain, even just for a while, it feels lighter. Claire smiled at him. That's why you're stronger than any man I ever loved. He chuckled softly. You really mean that? Not because of your muscles, because of how you carry people. Just then, a soft sound came from the living room. Claire and Keanu turned. Mara was standing in the hallway. I can't sleep, she said. Can I talk to you? Keanu stepped in first. Of course. Mara sat back down on the couch, hugging a pillow. Her voice was small. I'm scared to go back, even if someone finds me. I'm scared they'll send me home. Claire sat beside her. What do you want, child? I want to feel safe. I want to matter. Keanu knelt in front of her. You do. Mara looked up. How do you know? He placed a hand on his heart. Because I once asked the same thing, and someone reminded me that worth isn't earned. It's given. Just by being here, you matter. Mara's lip quivered. She reached out and hugged him. He hugged her back, gently. That night, Claire made up the guest room with fresh sheets. Mara lay in the bed, her face calm for the first time in days. Outside her door, Keanu stood guard for a few minutes, not because she asked, but because it felt right. And just as he turned to go, he saw Claire standing at the end of the hallway. You know, she said softly, I never had children, but maybe life just gave me to in one day. Keanu smiled. Then maybe we're both being adopted. They laughed quietly, but neither of them could have known. By morning, someone would come knocking, and everything would change again. The knock at sunrise morning came slowly, with soft golden light peeking through the curtains of Claire's small white house. Birds chirped on the windowsill, and the air smelled faintly of toast and orange jam. It should have been a peaceful morning, but peace never lasts long when something important is about to be tested. Claire stood in the kitchen, humming softly. While flipping pancakes, Keanu sat at the dining table, sipping tea, reading a book that had been collecting dust in Claire's study for years. Mara was still asleep in the guest room, curled under the blankets, finally resting after what felt like a lifetime of fear. Then came the knock. 3 short taps. Not loud, not angry, just firm. Keanu and Claire froze. They looked at each other. Claire wiped her hands on a towel. It's early for visitors. Keanu stood up and walked slowly to the door. He opened it carefully. On the porch stood a tall man in a sheriff's uniform, his badge shining in the morning light. Behind him was a woman in a gray coat with a clipboard in her hands. Her expression was serious, businesslike. Good morning, the officer said. I'm Deputy Alan Shaw. This is Ms. Karen Wells from Child Protective Services. We're looking for a girl named Mara. Keanu kept his voice calm. Why, Ms. Wells spoke. Her aunt reported her missing. We received word that she may have been seen in this area. Claire stepped beside Keanu. She came to us last night, barefoot, hungry, scared, she said. She ran away from an unsafe home. Ms. Wells nodded. We're aware of some concerns with the household, but until we've investigated, Mara is technically still under the aunt's guardianship. Do we have to give her back? Claire asked softly. Not yet, Ms. Wells said. We'd like to speak with her first. Just talk. Keanu nodded. Give us a moment. They stepped inside. Mara was standing at the end of the hallway. She had heard everything. Her face was pale. Her body trembled. Please, she whispered. Don't let them take me back. Keanu walked to her slowly. They just want to talk. And we'll be with you. Mara shook her head. They won't believe me. They never do. He's good at hiding. He smiles in public. He volunteers. No one believes what he does when the door is closed. Claire wrapped her arms around her. You don't have to go through this alone, she said. This time, we speak with you. We fight with you. Mara took a shaky breath and nodded. In the living room, she sat down on the couch with Keanu and Claire on either side. The officer and Ms. Wells sat across from them. Mara. Ms. Wells said kindly, we just want to know how you're feeling. No pressure. Mara looked at Keanu, who gave a soft nod. Then, slowly, she began to speak. She told them everything. About the screaming, the threats, the bruises. The night she slept with a chair pushed against her bedroom door. Tears fell down her face. But she didn't stop. Claire held her hand the whole time. Ms. Wells took notes quietly, occasionally asking gentle questions. The officer's face shifted slowly from neutral to concern, deep concern. When Mara finished, the room was silent. Ms. Wells finally said, "Thank you for being brave." Mara looked down. "What happens now?" Ms. Wells stood. "You stay here. For now, we'll launch a full investigation into the home. But you won't go back. Not until we're sure you're safe." Tears of relief filled Mara's eyes. Deputy Shaw stood too. "Thank you both," he said to Claire and Keanu. Most people would have turned her away. Claire shook her head. Most people forget what it feels like to be scared. After they left, Mara collapsed into Claire's arms, sobbing for the first time, not out of fear, but from release. That afternoon, Keanu helped Claire finish moving the last of the furniture. They carried the piano gently back into its place. When they were done, Keanu sat and played the same soft tune as before. Mara listened from the doorway, smiling. "I want to learn to play," she said. Claire smiled back. "Then we'll teach you." And for the first time, Claire saw something in Mara's eyes she hadn't seen before. Hope. Later that evening, Mara helped Claire make dinner. She wore Claire's old apron, 2 sizes too big, and laughed when flour spilled all over the floor. Keanu watched from the doorway. Sometimes, the strongest people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who choose to stand again, no matter how many times they've fallen. But just when the night seemed safe and settled, a car pulled up outside. An unfamiliar vehicle. A man stepped out. Tall. Neatly dressed. Confident smile. But something about him made Keanu's jaw tighten. Mara peeked out the window and froze, her face drained of color. "It's him," she whispered. Keanu stood slowly. "Stay inside," he said. And walked toward the door. Face to face with Firth. Front door creaked open slowly. Keanu stepped outside and stood tall on Claire's porch. The man from the car stood just a few feet away, arms crossed, smile sharp and cold like a blade hidden behind charm. "You must be Keanu," the man said. "Funny. Never thought I'd meet a movie star while picking up my niece." Keanu didn't move. "You're here for Mara." "That's right." The man's eyes flicked toward the window. "She's had her little adventure, but it's time to come home." Keanu didn't smile back. "Home isn't supposed to make you afraid to sleep." The man's expression didn't change. "You're making things worse by keeping her. I'm her family. This is none of your business." Keanu stepped down from the porch. "She's not going with you." The man chuckled. "You think you can stop me?" Keanu's voice was calm. "I don't need to fight you. I just need to protect her." Inside, Mara clutched Claire's hand tightly. She peeked through the curtains and saw Keanu standing like a stone, unshaken. "He always gets his way," she whispered. "He tricks people, tells them I'm dramatic, that I'm lying." Claire knelt beside her. "Not this time." Outside, the man took a step closer. "Listen, I don't care who you are. You have no right to keep her. I'll call the police." Keanu's voice didn't rise. "Good. Call them. They were already here this morning. Child Protective Services." 2. They believed her. The man's face twitched, just slightly, enough for the mask to crack. "She's a kid. Kids lie." Keanu's eyes didn't blink. "But pain doesn't. Fear doesn't. You don't scare her because you're strict. You scare her because you know what you've done. And so does she." The man laughed. "But it was hollow now. You think she's better off with strangers. She's unstable. You'll see." Keanu stepped forward. "The only unstable thing around her was you, and the only thing she'll see now is safety." The man's smile faded. His hands curled into fists. But just then, blue and red lights lit up the driveway. Another sheriff's car. Deputy Alan Shaw stepped out. "Sir," he said, walking toward the man, "we have a few more questions for you. We'd like you to come with us." The man looked stunned. "What is this?" Shaw replied. "We've opened a full case based on Mara's report, and several others in your neighborhood have stepped forward too. Seems you've made quite the impression." He turned to Keanu and nodded. "Thanks for calling us earlier." The man's eyes darted back and forth. Realizing he was surrounded, 2 more officers approached from the sidewalk. He didn't resist. But as they led him away, he turned one last time to Keanu. "She'll regret this." Keanu didn't answer. He just watched Dot, and in the silence, something broke. Not outside, inside Mara. She let go of Claire's hand. Dot stood on her own, walked to the door and opened it. The officers paused as she stepped outside. She looked the man straight in the eyes. "No," she said. "Clearly, you will." He opened his mouth, but no words came. They took him away in handcuffs. Mara stood still for a moment, then turned and walked back into the house. Claire met her with open arms, but Mara hugged her only briefly as she walked past her, walked past Keanu. Stood in front of the piano. And sat down. Her fingers hovered over the keys. They shook. Then she played. Just one note. Then another. Soft, unsure, but real. Keanu sat beside her, not saying a word, just listening. Supporting. When she finished, Mara whispered, "I don't want to be afraid anymore." Keanu nodded. "You're not." She looked at him. "How do you know?" "Because you just faced the one thing that kept you small," he said, "and you didn't run." That night, Claire made a big dinner: roasted vegetables, bread, soup, and soft apple pie. They sat at the table like a family. Not by blood. But by choice. When Claire said grace before eating, she added something special. "Thank you for the strength that finds us when we think we have none left, and for the hearts that hold each other up when the world tries to push them down." Mara's eyes welled up, but she smiled, and Keanu, he didn't say much. He just looked at both of them and knew something had changed forever. He came to move a couch. Instead, he helped move a heart, and yet, the story wasn't over. Not for Keanu. Because when he stepped outside to get some air, his phone buzzed. A message from someone he hadn't heard from in years. "I saw what you did. Meet me. I need help." It was from his sister. A door he never opened. The stars were bright above Claire's little house. The night was quiet. Warm light glowed through the windows where Claire and Mara laughed softly over dishes in the kitchen. The smell of apple pie still lingered in the air. But Keanu stood outside alone, phone in hand, staring at a message that pulled something deep inside him, something he thought he had buried. "I saw what you did. Meet me. I need help." It was from his sister. They hadn't spoken in over 7 years. Not because of anger, but because of silence. A long silence between people who loved each other, but never learned how to say the hard things. He read the message again, and again. Claire stepped outside, drying her hands on a towel. "Everything all right?" Keanu put his phone away. "My sister needs me." Claire studied his face. "Do you want to go?" He nodded. "I think it's time." She smiled gently. "Then go." Mara peeked out from the door. "Will you come back?" Keanu walked over and knelt in front of her. "You've already got the strength you need." "But yes, I'll come back." 2 days later, he stood on a street corner in Los Angeles, just a few blocks from where he had grown up. The building in front of him was old but still standing, a tiny diner with flickering lights and coffee that always tasted like yesterday. He walked inside, and there she was. Karen, his younger sister. She looked thinner than he remembered. Her eyes held the same fire, but also the same sadness. She stood up when she saw him. They didn't speak at first. They just hugged for a long time. When they finally sat down, Karen looked out the window and whispered, "I saw the story. The one with the girl, the woman on Maple Street. Someone posted it online, said you stepped in, stayed, helped." Keanu nodded slowly. "It wasn't planned. I just showed up." "You always show up for strangers," Karen said, her voice shaking. "But not for me." Keanu looked down. "I know." "Why?" He closed his eyes for a moment. "Because I didn't know how. I thought staying away would protect you." Karen wiped a tear. "Protect me from what?" "From me," Keanu said. "From all the darkness I carried. From the pain. I thought if I disappeared, it would keep you safe." Karen's lip quivered. "But it didn't. I went through hell, and I needed you. Not a perfect version of you. Just a you." Keanu reached across the table and held her hand. "Then I'm here now," he said, "not to fix the past, but to walk with you into whatever's next." She nodded slowly. "I have a daughter," she said suddenly. Keanu blinked. What? Her name is Ivy. She's 5, and she loves old action movies, especially the ones you're in. His chest tightened. I want you to meet her, Karen added, but only if you're ready. Keanu's voice softened. I've never been ready for anything important, but I'll show up a week later. Keanu stood on Claire's porch again. She opened the door with a big smile. You kept your promise. He stepped in and hugged her tightly. I brought someone with me. Mara appeared in the hallway, who from behind him stepped a small girl, bright eyes, curly hair, and a shy smile. This is Ivy, Keanu said. My niece. Ivy waved gently. Mara stepped forward, holding out her hand. Hi, I'm Mara. Ivy smiled. You're the one from the story. Mara laughed. I guess I am. The house filled with warmth again. Ivy ran to the piano and pressed a few keys. Can you play? She asked. Mara nodded. I'm learning. Keanu sat between them. Maybe we can learn together. Claire walked into the room carrying a plate of cookies. Family, she said, smiling. Sometimes it finds you in the most unexpected ways. Keanu looked around at them all. Claire, who opened her heart. Mara, who stood back up after being broken. Karen, who dared to reach out again. And Ivy, the future they would now protect together. He had come to move furniture, but what he really moved was something deeper. He moved grief out of a locked room. He moved fear out of a child's heart, and he made space, not just in a house, but in lives. As the piano played quietly in the background, Keanu whispered to Claire, you were right. Kindness isn't weakness. And Claire, with her quiet strength, replied, no, child, it's the strongest thing in the world.